Hello everyone, welcome to another Fire Carrier Guide. Today we're going to talk about the Graf Zeppelin. Now, this video will contain profanity and there'll be some curse words and some swearing. So if you're delicately offended or you have some minors watching this video, we recommend perhaps not watching this one and watch some of the other ones. If you are short on time and you do not have however long it takes to make this video, the TL didn't watch is don't buy it, it's terrible, it does nothing particularly good. But now we're going to talk about why. So stay with me and let's figure out why this ship is really bad. Small caveat, I wasn't actually going to do a review on the Graf Zeppelin because I thought it was unfinished and it was going to go back to the drawing board and it was a mistake, a lot of drama kind of on Reddit going on, but it turns out no, this is actually the proper release ship. This is the Graf Zeppelin as you will get her. So here's the review. Right, the old Graf Zeppelin. Now I have to do props to the artists who put her in game. She's a stunning ship. Visually, it's very impressive. But let's go into the caveat what makes a good carrier. We are talking air control, bombing, and scouting. So the triangle, I've been talking about this for a couple of videos now. A good CV has a balance, similar to like the Shikaku, of a good air control. That's kind of fighters, you know, protecting your bombers, but you know, preventing the enemy from seeing, scouting, general air control. Bombing is your ability to sink more or less anything in the game if you have to go after a destroyer, cruiser, battleship in order levels of difficulty, but ultimately is the ship capable of doing that. And then scouting, can you scout without sacrificing fighter or bombing control? Can you provide scouting without, you know, affecting the other two? So that being said, it's kind of hard. Where do you start with this? The simple fact is, if you look at, for example, the Lexington over here, okay? The Lexington has really good fighter control in the fighter setup. So does the S6, so does Midway. If you go fighter control, you have excellent fire control in that triangle. You're way off the scale in fire control, but you have very little bombing control. And if you want to scout, you either adversely affect that bombing capability or you have to take away from the fighters. So the scouting is entirely dependent on the other two. The bombing is negligible, you have no impact on the game, and the fighters are really powerful. So that's an example of going off to one end. If we look at, for example, the Kaga, okay? The Kaga is a tier 7 ship that was entered. And the Kaga is an interesting ship because it has slightly weaker fighters compared to, say, the Hiryu or the Saipan. They're weaker, they're tier 6. But it gains heavily in the bombing area because it's 12 rather than 8 torpedo bombers. And the scouting is slightly weaker, but you still get the dive bomber squadron. So in that type of triangle, it's actually okay-ish because you get something for the weaker slightly scouting, the weaker fighters, you get those torpedo bombers. The Saipan, okay, that's another tier 7 premium carrier that was released by WarGaming. Here we go. So the Saipan is interesting as it was the first premium carrier, and the mentality there was smaller wave planes in a wave, but make them tankier, and it's actually very noob friendly. It's probably the most noob friendly carrier if you've never played carrier before and you jump one straight into it. The Saipan's very forgiving, you're not going to be punished by anti-air, the bombing is fairly simple with the dive bomber, it's a simple click, or the torpedo bombers, it kind of introduces you in the game and so be it. So in that respect, the scouting isn't very good on the Saipan because it involves either using your fighters or the torpedo bombers or dive bomber that you've got. So it can't do that without affecting others. But the air control is almost second to none. The Hiryu gives it a very close run, but it's probably good with the strafing, and it's, you know, you can strafe in, you can exit. It's fairly free going, and the dive bomb torpedo bombers are fairly fast, and you get it right. Okay, so but this is a review about the Graf Zeppelin. So what about the Graf Zeppelin, right? Well, the problem about the Graf Zeppelin is that it's terrible. It has no benefits in this triangle. It's all terrible. The fighters are anemically bad. The dive bombers are also anemically bad and slow in terms of health, and we'll get into the stats here in a moment. The HE, don't get me wrong, the actual circle of the HE in the drop pattern is actually fairly nice. It's actually fairly enjoyable. I can sort of kind of wing that. But that shouldn't be the main source of damage. And then the AP dive bombs, statistically speaking, if you look at the numbers, are actually quite good, especially compared to the Enterprise. A little bit more. You have 18 instead of 12. But they're so hard to hit with the manual attack, it's almost impossible. And if I can't do it, a freaking Unicum King of the Sea carrier player, how do you expect anyone else to be able to pull it off? And then we'll talk about WarGaming's response here in a moment about, oh, you'll just get good eventually. It's good to vent. We'll get to that in a moment, alright? So, let's just bring up some stats, have a look at some general overview of why WarGaming might think this is good, alright? So, here, have a look at this, alright? So here we go, we got some basic statistics of the numbers, rather than seeing things. So if you're taking a look at plane speeds, we see that the Zeppelin, oh, it actually has pretty good speeds. It has 175 speed, so it's got the fastest, that's fair enough. In wave count, well, it's not too bad, it's joint with the Shikaku. If you're turning damage, actually it's quite bad, it's 67. It's like kind of the lowest other than the Enterprise. And then if we're taking wave damage, this is cumulatively all the fighters, hold on, we'll just move this chat up. This is all the fighters combined in the strafing attack. Now this is actually really good for the Lexington, for example, because it's got 7 fighters. So if you lose 1 fighter, the actual damage, doesn't go down a lot. Whereas if you have a wave of 5, as such as the Shikaku and Zeppelin, and you lose 1 plane, whether it's an exit strafe, whether because you clip it, the DPS that you do is already very low at 355 compared to 483 in the Lexington. But you lose a plane, it goes down by 1/5. You can easily lose 2 planes, you're down to 3 planes, and then now your strafing mechanic is entirely useless and wasteful, right? In terms of ammunition, it's also extremely bad. It's limited number of strafes that doesn't make up for its weak DPS. In terms of plane prep time, yes, the planes load fast, so that's fair enough. And in the wave prep, they're also good. Cumulatively, they only take 18 seconds compared to others, 27 or in the 30s for the Americans. But then if we go over to the plane healths, we see that the Zeppelin planes are some of the weakest planes, period. And you think, well, they're actually not that bad. Look at the Enterprise, they're fine, but the Enterprise you're forgetting is a tier 7 fighter. So, because it's a tier 7 fighter, the speed's kind of irrelevant because the Enterprise fighters get the dogfighting benefit. The Zeppelins don't. The Zeppelins are weak. What does it mean about the fighters having low health? It means they can't scout. If they go into enemy AA, you're basically calling it a tier 8 so it doesn't get the benefit of dogfighting, okay? But then at the same time, your plane health is so low that if it goes into enemy AA to spot as a scouting mechanic, it's terrible because they get shot up. And then when it does lose a plane, its DPS when it actually comes into a fighter duel is freaking terrible because you've now lost a plane because the health is so low. So if you're looking at the wave HP, it's the lowest of all of them, and it's terrible. But statistically, you think, oh, the Shikaku and the Zeppelin, they don't look that bad. They're actually fairly close. But it's not that simple. There are other benefits to the Shikaku. The Shikaku fighters have huge amount of DPS at 77, so they can afford to lose 1 plane, but they still have that damage when you're coming into a strafe. And I'll come back to this in a bit more. If we're looking at bomber comparisons, if you're looking at purely from a statistical numbers point of view, we are looking over at plane health. We see that the Zeppelin's plane health, its bomber, is really weak. It doesn't have the Enterprise's tier 7 ability, but the ship hull upgrades 15% module that it can get. So you've got a very weak bomber compared to the torpedo bomber for Shikaku that's way up in the 1800s. It's reasonably health if you're looking at it at the Shikaku's dive bomber, 1659 to 1691. Alright, fair enough. But every other carrier at all is way higher. Absolutely way higher. And this also affects the scouting mechanic because the dive bombers, their health is so low that if you then choose to use them in a scouting fashion, they will die much faster than anyone else. Their plane wave size, okay, it's 6 compared to maybe the 4 of the torpedo bombers of the Shikaku, but you don't scout with the torpedo bombers of the Shikaku. It'll be the 5 of the dive bombers of the Shikaku. But the dive bombers of the Shikaku are they are much faster and they have more health. So you can get to where you want to go. You can avoid fighters, which we're about to come. If we have a look briefly at the speed, we'll see that the speed is down in the 135 range. The 135, 136, 133s of the different American and this time Zeppelin dive bombers means that they cannot drop their payload and then fly faster than an enemy fighter. An enemy fighter will catch it and kill it. This is one of the strengths of the Shikaku dive bombers. They're not really great on offensive capability or damage. However, they can drop their payload and then they can scout. So this gives the Shikaku really good scouting capability. The Zeppelin doesn't have it. It's got weak HP planes. It's got weak speed on the bombers themselves. Sure, the prep time is fast, but that's irrelevant because once you actually go somewhere, you're inside the AA longer. You drop the payload, you're trying to scout around, it's got weak health, it can't escape fighters, it needs to be babysitted. Oh, but wait, your fighters are terrible anyway. The whole thing is just bad. I mean, you can pause the video and look at some of these statistics if you want. If we're looking at the hull comparison, who balances a carrier off of hull? yeah, okay, you need to do it, but that's not the main element of the carrier. The carrier comes down to the planes. So up here is bulge protection percentage, that's damage reduction from torpedoes. We see that the Zeppelin has actually got pretty bad bulge protection, same level as the Lexington. The Shokaku and the Enterprise are far higher and far better. In terms of speed, it's nothing spectacular. It's still the slowest carrier, and these are with speed signals on. In terms of turning, it's still a fat pig. It doesn't have the greatest turning. Rudder shift isn't that great. The sea detection's fairly high, although at 14.1 kilometers, the sea detection isn't that bad. And that's without concealment expert. Concealment expert goes down to, I think, let me give me 1 sec. I have a cheat sheet here. I think it's 11.9. Yeah, 11.9. But you, depending on how you want to spend those 4 captain points in that, it's up to you. The air detection isn't that bad at 12.4, and it goes down into the 10s if you take the concealment expert. The AA range at 5.4, and this is with AFT, is the weakest of the rest. Everyone else is 6 kilometers. The actual AA DPS is not that bad. You'll see that over here we have, it's reasonable, it's not that bad. I mean, the Lexington's sky high, but that's just one of its traits. It's actually pretty good, the AA DPS. The health of the ship is slightly better. I mean, you think statistically looking, if you look at this, it actually thinks, oh, well, Graf Zeppelin doesn't look like that bad. It looks about average compared to everyone else. It has the same 72 planes as the Shokaku and the Lexington. The Enterprise is slightly special because it gets 96, and that kind of makes the Enterprise not that bad. Alright, so those are the stats. If you want to pause it and have a look at it or go back, you go ahead. Now, what does this mean? Well, in essence, if you want to bomb, you use torpedo bombers. Why do you use torpedo bombers? Well, it's because they're skilled aiming. You have consistent damage against all targets. All you have to look is at the torpedo protection damage reduction here, this percentage, and that tells you roughly how much damage you're going to do. And Alabama has somewhere around 50%, this ship has 18%, you know you're going to do relative damage. When you have dive bombers, whether they be HE, high explosive, or armor piercing, that is inconsistent damage because there's a randomness of how the bombs drop. Bigger the target, better, but you still magically have all the bombs flying all around the side. If you are trying to use dive bombers as your main damage source, such as perhaps the Enterprise is okay because it can get torpedo bombers to supplement its damage, especially going after smaller targets are quite difficult. That then comes on to the AP dive bombers of the Graf Zeppelin, which I'm sure you're all aware because you've seen all the other videos. There's a 6 to 9 second. If you click on it, then it's 3 seconds to get there, then the 6 seconds in the drop. If you try and manual with the AP dive bombers, good fucking luck trying to hit anything on that goddamn thing. It is so terrible. You drop the thing on the bomb site, the planes come, they drop, they fly away, they still look as if they've got the bombs, the UI is giving you no indication that there's a 6 second delay, they fly back, you think, oh, did he not drop, does he turn around, is he gonna drop, oh wait, no, ship's over here and the bombs land over there, a miss by a mile, and that's a slow moving target, perfectly on the nose, giving a lot of time, and it's so frustrating. How are you supposed to guess a huge curve first where it's going to go in the next 6 seconds? It can turn and drift all over the place. It's a complete blind shot. So you spent 3 bloody minutes to get your dive bombers out there, going through hell knows what AA, and using your crapping fighters to get over there to bomb this particular target with your 18 dive bombers that might take some losses, and you're being up-tiered into the 910s, and hell, even the tier 8s, the dive bombers don't do that much damage. And then you hit a target, and then maybe if you're lucky you hit it. And what really hits the peak is if you auto-bomb, it completely ignores the delay, it will drop the bomb after the 6 seconds, but the bombs will actually follow the ship and land on the ship. So you don't, and it is practically just as accurate. So why would I want to use manual? The whole point of manual is so that when you aim on something, it's a risk-reward system. Are you listening, WarGaming? When you aim with the, like say, take the Kaga's dive bomber. The Kaga's dive bomber is a fairly reasonable circle, so if you click on a ship, you'll get some hits, and an unskilled player can at least get some damage. But if you want to double down and take a risk reward, you can make it pinpoint, and you can gamble all or nothing, and you can hit that damage. And it has to be within a reasonable amount of time, like that 3 second delay, not the 6-7 second delay. There's no reward, there's no extra damage. And then let's talk about the AP dive bomber's damage. I remember reading about how, oh, we've balanced it more and it's more consistent. Fuck all is it inconsistent. You only do damage to German battleships. That's it. It's just like the fucking Enterprise, and the Enterprise is bad in its own place because it can only do damage against German battleships. I have tried AP damage with this freaking turd of a ship here, and I have tried to bomb 9s and 10s, 7s, 6s, and all that type of stuff. And when you come up tiered, anything that's not a German battleship, you do bugger all damage. Nothing. Zilch. Nada. Look, 100,000 health ship, or a 90,000 health Yamato, and 3 dive bombers with an auto bomb so you can hit. And I get 17 fucking hits on the damn thing. And how much damage do I do? 11,000, 12,000, 14,000. That's pathetic damage for the effort it takes to get the planes up, out there, protect them, get them on target, and do damage. 3 waves. What's the point? The bloody HE dive bombers do more damage than the AP ones against these targets. But then you're thinking, oh, well, you just use the HE ones. Well, hang on a second. I might use 2 dive bombers to try and trigger some fires, and then I might use the 3rd one to, after a damage control party to try and do some damage, and the circle reticle is actually kind of cool, and the narrowness is pretty cool, and you can hit destroyers with that, and it's kind of Japanese-esque and you hit, but this isn't the main damage source. Yeah, you can click on these things, but you're not doing anything, you're tickling them. You're basically an air superiority American carrier that has dive bombers that can somewhat reliably more hit, and they do somewhat kind of damage, minor. But the whole point of the American one having crap dive bombers is because they have really strong fucking fighters. The Graf Zeppelin does not have strong fucking fighters! It has the worst fighters in the entire tier 8 bracket. And why am I annoyed about the tier 8 bracket? Well, I'll tell you, because the tier 8 bracket is considered the meta of competitive. So you can have good games in randoms, you can play these ships and the Shikaku behind me here in ranked, or you can play them in competitive. At the moment, only the Shikaku is competitive because the Lexington doesn't have a balanced setup. The Shikaku's got a 3-1-2, the Lexington doesn't, it's 2-0-2, which means it's 3-on-2 fighters, it can't scout as much, it can't bomb as much. The Enterprise, unfortunately, has tier 7 fighters, which means it has a lower health pool, so the fighters can't necessarily scout, plus if you want to scout with your dive bombers, with your main offensive capability, and the torpedo bombers are too much spread out. And although it is close to being a good competitive ship in the top echelons of Super Unicom players, it's just not good enough. It's close, it's fun, it's kind of random-ish, but you're reliant on German battleships. And now this Graf Zeppelin, you're relying entirely on German battleships or trying to do some sort of gameplay mechanic where you use your HE and dive bomb and hit it. And it just bugs me so much that in the tier 8 meta, where I want to have 4 carriers and I want legitimate 4 choices, how I can mix up and go with team composition, how we can possibly play a ranked setup, which there are many ranked seasons that have been at tier 8 and there'll probably be another one again, or a competitive setup like King of the Sea, which, by the way, I'm fucking King of the Sea. I am the carrier that's King of the Sea, and if I can't make this piece of shit turd work, what chance have you got to make it work? What chance has any new player who's going to buy this ship? Speaking of which, the £50 or the £44 for the bronze thing, this is expensive. I could have bought Warhammer 2. I could have bought any AAA title and played it, but no, I chose to support WarGaming and make a video on this because I'm not a community contributor. I don't get this shit for free. I bought the damn thing to do a review on it, and sure enough, I knew from the statistics it would be freaking terrible, and it is bloody terrible. But then you think, well, hang on a second. Maybe it was released, maybe it released too early, or maybe they didn't think about it, or maybe there's a mistake, games came along, maybe someone made a mistake. Well, you think about that, but actually, let's actually have a look at this. What's this? This is the latest thing on the forum from Candley. And basically what he is saying up here is that we don't think that she is too weak, or that she is not ready for release. What? What? Did you not listen to everything I just fucking said? So the main reason for being the fact our stats are currently compared to those of our counterparts, yes, we just looked at our stats, but that's not the whole story. You have to know how the whole thing works together. The ship is terrible. You can't talk about the gimmicky fucking secondaries, which you can get 7.9 or 9.3 or 4 kilometers if you sacrifice your fighters even more by taking away the 20% health on the fighter bonus. And then, yes, it's trollific, and yes, I've used the carrier in the secondary mode, and yes, it's amazing against destroyers, and that's it. But anything that's under 10 kilometers, you're dead anyway. So let's look at the rest of this. Okay, we know it's not the easiest ship to adapt to, but still believe that she can overcome, she can become effective once the players get comfortable using it battle. Did you see that? She can still become effective once players get comfortable to it. WarGaming is calling you bad. They are fucking calling you bad. You don't know how to play this ship, which is why you are bad at it, and it's not a bad ship, you just don't know how to play her. Well, excuse me, I think I've played this game since fucking beta. I've played all the carriers. I'm a goddamn carrier main. Right? And if I can't make this piece of shit work, and I try super hard, I try the AP dive bombers, I try the manual dropping, I try the auto bombing, I try the HE dive bombers, I play in divisions, I play in team play. I have to play out of my skin to make the ship fighters work. I have to play really well with the strafes and the bravs and being very careful of enemy anti-air. It's the worst fighter ship in the game. And then if I can't make the dive bombers do any reliable damage, I have to get close and use the gimmicky secondaries to somehow make a difference. Heck, yesterday I was playing in the bloody stream and I had a fucking destroyer in a division with me giving me smokes. I can use the secondaries. That's the only way I made the Zeppelin work. You telling me I am bad and I can't work this damn thing? Good luck selling that to anyone else. And by the way, this is nothing against Candley here from WarGaming, but he represents WarGaming, and this is obviously, he's been told to say this by somebody else. And it needs to be clear, this is grade A fucking bullshit. Okay, and let's read a little bit more here. She currently has 2 loadouts, high explosive and armor piercing, and while higher explosive is rather easy to operate, yeah it is, circle, click on it, it's fine, doesn't do a great damage, AP is still really skill development. You're damn right it's really skill dependent. You either click on it, or you get nothing. It's not skill dependent, you have to click on the target because the actual guessing it and the turning, you get like 1 bomb hit and it does fuck all damage because the AP does nothing against light cruisers or destroyers or most of the battleships that it comes across. It's only the German ones it might do damage to. And then, this is the real kicker here, guys. As we'd like to give her a bit more variety in the future, there's a plan to int torpedo bombers. And the mentality here was WarGaming had a little chat. We have this guy in the center, so this is, I think he's the producer, and he was talking basically along the lines exactly what Canley's about to saying, in that they thought it was too powerful with the standard torpedo bombers, so as a result, they took them away. Because of the OP on destroyers. It's fair enough. And they want deep dive torpedoes so that they miss destroyers, but they can smack into the battleships and some deep cruisers. I mean, I can sort of kind of see that if you give them some dive bombers. Like, you can have a mixture of HE and deep dive torpedo bombers. That might actually be a pretty good carrier. You know, because the HE dive bombers can hit destroyers, your secondaries allow you some defense against destroyers. It's not going to be anywhere near as good as Shikaku that can go after everything with good skill. But yeah, okay, I can sort of kind of see the gimmicky, but you're missing the key point here. In the future, we want to give her more, but this cannot be done immediately, as we're still developing deep dive torpedoes. We must be monitoring performance. So what they're basically saying is that, not only are you not good enough to play this carrier, so you've got to improve, she wasn't ready, we didn't have the skills and the technique ready, but we decided to release her anyway! So we released her early, we just admitted that we released her early, we didn't have all the tools available, but we're going to release it anyway, and we'll make it better along the lines. And they're charging you a maximum price for this piece of shit. What the hell? Anyway, it feels good to rant and to vent. The honourable thing from WarGaming is somebody's made the decision to release this, and it's clearly bad, and all of Reddit says it's bad, and every other review tells you this is a crap ship. Alright? So, in that respect, what would I perhaps say differently? Offer a refund, perhaps, or make it clear what exactly it is, or pull it off the store and say, you know what, the thing's not ready, we accept your thing, those who've already bought it can get a full refund, or you can just hold on to it and then we'll make it better later. But no, they are literally trying to tell you, actually, that's fine, it's fine, why don't you just get better at it, and then we'll make it slightly better in the future. Oh, that's so frustrating. And the fact is, I was looking forward to this because this is the first carrier, and not the fact it's a German carrier, it's the first carrier that is not an American or a Japanese carrier. It's another carrier addition to the tier 8 meta, as we're saying, ranked and competitive. I'm a CV main, I enjoy playing lots of carriers, I'm very glad that there were lots of premium carriers, 4 that have currently been released, because there isn't like a third carrier line, we're all waiting for those British carriers to come out. But this does not fill me with confidence when the British carriers come out, because if they can't get one fucking premium done properly, what makes you think they can do anything with the British carriers? Is there anyone from WarGaming who even knows how to bloody well balance these ships? Do they play them? I looked up the statistics of the Russian devs. Nobody plays these damn things in their own time. It's like 1% game time. Does anyone know how they play? It's one thing to do statistics on the bar grand chaff, but if you actually played this thing, have you tried it? Ask me, ask anyone else. I can give you a hand about how to balance this thing. The idea of the deep dive torpedoes is relatively good. The torpedo bomber doesn't need to be 2-1-2 for gimmicky. You can split the torpedo bombers up. You can make them smaller. You can even make the torpedo bombers fast. So the Shikaku, for example, is relying on its torpedo bombers. And the dive bombers, the scouting element. Make the torpedo bombers on the Graf Zeppelin fast so that they do light damage. They have some kind of cross drop, light damage, so they can, you know, they can tickle. They're going for that flooding mechanic. They're really quick. You can use in that scouting role because they've got relatively high health after they've dropped their payload. And the dive bombers can be the main damage dealer with the AP that doesn't have the fucking delay, or you're using HE. Now you've got flooding in HE. You don't need to have high alpha damage because you can use a mixture of the flooding and the fire damage mechanic. It's like, there are many ways you can make this thing work. Even right bloody now, That doesn't make it a carbon copy clone of the Shikaku, but you didn't. You're telling me that nobody at WarGaming had thought an idea how to make this work, how to mess around with it, and you had to release it like this. I don't know, man. I think I'm going to end with the rant there. In brief, there's a triangle of carriers: air control, bombing, offensive capability, and scouting, none of which the Graf Zeppelin does good at any particular element. The bomber planes are too slow to escape fighters. The fighters and the bombers, their health are too low to effectively engage in scouting enemy AA at tier 8, let alone 9 and 10. Hell, even some tier 7 and 6 carriers have a good time, AA ships have a good time shooting down these planes. Scouting with the bombers reduces the effectiveness of this ship because it's got 3 basic planes, and if you scout with one, you're immediately cutting off its already anemically bad bombing capability by scouting with the 1 dive bomber. Yeah, and if you're talking like plane reserves on this thing, it's roughly the same as Shikaku, in that it has 10 planes that fire off 2 sets of fighters. It's got 25 in reserve. The Shikaku has 10 fighters and 24 in reserve. It has 18 dive bombers that immediately take off at the beginning, and this is obviously with air supremacy, and has 29 dive bombers in the reserve. The Enterprise has bad fighters, but it makes up for this by having way more reserves. There's 2.5 reserves for the Graf Zeppelin in terms of waves, okay? In terms of full waves. So once the first one goes, you get another 2, and then that's it, right? You almost get 3 waves in return. The Enterprise makes up for its bad fires because they can go toe-to-toe, 1-to-1, or you can even sacrifice 2 fires for 1 enemy fire because that's a lot of capacity. It goes 96 planes and most of them are fighters. It makes up for the slightly weaker fires because you have a lot of them. The only thing good about the Zeppelin is that it is a fast takeoff, but it doesn't have the plane capacity. It's got the same number of fighters roughly as the Shikaku, but they are slightly faster, slightly load faster, but they're weak. Low health, low damage, low ammo. They're just bad. You know, to make them viable, bump the health up to the same level as Shikaku, or even just slightly higher than that. You don't need to change necessarily the DPS. The health thing's the big thing. Or you bump up the DPS and keep the health up even a little bit. It needs something to make it viable, but even then the bombing capability makes it terrible. I mean, the hull is average. The secondaries are crazy on this thing. It's better than anyone else. There's a clip on my Twitch channel, which I don't have at the moment, but basically, in this thing, at 9.3 kilometers, I kill a Tashkent with all the kind of the benefit secondaries in about 40 seconds with the secondaries. And it's super laser accurate. The secondaries are phenomenal on this thing. It's kind of gimmicky, and that's not what makes a carrier here. Yeah, and that's it. The fires are weak, and we've talked about all this kind of things. So there's no point really continuing this video. I'm not going to show you in-game how it plays because it's garbage. There's no point. If it wasn't clear already, do not buy this fucking piece of shit. Even if they possibly update it, WarGaming needs to be told that this is unacceptable. Yes, it's a computer game. Yes, it's something released. Yes, you can buy option and willingly. But grow bloody up. Don't release something if it's not ready because you want to do a cash grab. Are you so strapped for money that you need to release this thing so low? Do you even understand how carriers work or how the gameplay works? Release your kind of thinking or your meta of how do you see carriers to be. The freaking Shikaku here is the benchmark, the gold standard of what is a good carrier. You can get close to her, you can take her stats, you can go skewing off in different directions, but this is the thing. The Enterprise was close, it was very close to being super competitive, but it was slightly down. The wonky torpedo bombing spread, at least you got torpedo bombers, the AP dive bombers that only damage German battleships and nothing else, so there's no consistency. The Lexington's still waiting on a freaking module update because it's goddamn awful. 111 or 202 or 013, all of those are bad setups on the Lexington. Still waiting for module fixes on that. And now they're bringing out the Graf Zeppelin? I have zero confidence that WarGaming even knows what they're doing with carriers. I'm surprised that the Japanese ones turned out as well as they did. Anyway, whew, I'm gonna cam off and eat some ice cream or something, man, because I wasn't going to make a video on this damn thing, but it's so fucking terrible. And if this is actually the release version of it, it's god-awful. I tried really hard to make it work. I can't. WarGaming blames me that I can't do it because apparently I need to get more comfortable in it to make it work. And that's bullshit, guys. Do not fucking buy this. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely evening, morning, whatever you are. Chill out. Goodbye.